Hare. Please, one more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, all together. Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All good Shri Prabhupada. Welcome devotees from morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, verse 5. And the chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. We are in the beginning stages of the chapter where Vidur returns back to Hastinapur after hearing instructions and questions and answers from Maitreya Muni. And we're very happy to have His Holiness Candramauli Swami with us. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All good to Prabhupada, all glories to you, Maharaj. Maharaj, you are on mute. I apologize.
Hi, my obeisances to all the devotees. Hare Krishna. Okay. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pratyujagmu Praharsenaham Anam Tanvan Vivagatam Abhisangamya Viddivat Parasvaga Vivadanai. Translation. With great delight, they all approached him, as if light had returned to their bodies. They exchanged obeisances and welcomed each other with embraces. Purport. In the absence of consciousness, the limbs of the body remain inactive. When consciousness returns, the limbs and the senses become active, and existence itself becomes delightful. Vidura was so dear to the members of the Kaurava family that his long absence from the palace was comparable to inactivity. All of them were feeling acute separation from Vidura, and therefore his return to the palace was joyful for all. Chaksu unnamitam varnatasme shrudharve namaha. Vijayhanmanovistam sakitam yena bhutale. Swayam rupa kadam dadati swampatam. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve. Gauravani Fitavesa Sunyavadi Pasyatya De Satarne Vanshakopatu Vischa Kripan Saheva Champatitam Pavane Byo Vaishnave Byo Namaho Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 It's very analogous here. Consciousness and activity are synonymous. When there's no consciousness, there's no activity. Or you might say that when consciousness is somewhat overshadowed by unhappiness, it's not much of a consciousness, more or less, a semblance of consciousness. And so there was a sense of unhappiness or feelings of longing and separation from Vidura. And it was especially important to understand that Vidura was not just an ordinary person. He was more than just a family member, although he was one of the family members, but at the same time, he was a pure devotee of the Lord. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was discussing with Sri Ramananda Roy, what they were asking, he was asking him different questions, and Ramananda Roy was responding to Lord Chaitanya's questions. Lord Chaitanya wanted to use Ramananda Roy to bring forth spiritual principles. The Lord can do that himself, but he likes to let his devotees do it because he also said, the Lord says, when my devotees speak, it has more effect than when I speak. And he's not just saying that. That's why he told Arjuna, you declare it boldly, my devotee will never perish. If I say it, people will not necessarily believe me. If you say it, because you are a pure devotee of myself, then people will take it seriously. So when Lord Chaitanya, using that same principle, wanted to get transcendental knowledge to people in general, he asked the questions and allowed Ramananda Roy, who was qualified, to speak the answers. And the question he asked, what is the greatest unhappiness? So there are different forms of why unhappiness may manifest in a person's life. But what is the greatest form of unhappiness? And Ramananda Roy, he also knows the mind of the Lord, in the sense that he knows the principles of pure devotional service. And he responded, the greatest unhappiness is separation from a devotee. Because the devotees, they actually represent the Lord. And when the pure devotee is present, it's almost as good as having the Lord personally present. It feels like that because they are reflections of the original sun, and they carry that sunlight with them. So wherever a pure devotee goes, he brightens everyone's life up. For those who are not mimical, of course. And even some that are mimical may also become transformed simply by the presence of a pure devotee. And a lot of that happens sometimes without them even knowing it. That is the power of the presence of a pure devotee. But here, this was a double form of longing. He was both a dear family member and a pure devotee at the same time. So the word acute is here, acute feelings of separation. And the greater the separation and the more the longing, when the meeting comes, the more joyful it becomes. That's why separation is a very integral part of the process of devotional service, because longing for that meeting brings about a devotee's endeavor to want to meet Krishna through the process of serving Krishna in devotional service. And when that devotion becomes pure, Krishna appears in the hearts and minds of his devotees. And sometimes he appears even in his personal form. So this mood of separation is very fundamental to the happiness that comes by way of devotional service. The tendency for the conditioned soul is that when a great devotee is around, people after a while, after some time, they may not really understand the benefits that to have such a person around, or they may also even take their activities become more routine, and they don't really have that deep feelings of love or wanting to associate with the pure devotee because of the time element. And that happens, of course, that doesn't happen with great souls, but when one of the conditioned souls may also take after some time, and that and this even happens in ordinary life. You see that when you miss somebody a lot, and then somehow they appear, you feel great joy. We see that in ordinary life too. People are reunited with their friends and relatives, and that unitedness brings about great happiness. But sometimes, and many times, it happens that after a while things go back to ordinary again. Sometimes we take advantage of that person's association, not appreciate that those that are the actual essence of that relationship. And you also see that where people who are dear to someone, they die. And when they die, a person will think, oh, boy, I didn't really appreciate that person enough. I didn't really take time to associate enough with that person. And then they start remembering all the good qualities of that person. But when they're personally present, sometimes that mood is lost by ordinary activities in the material world. So you can see here, it says that Vidura was gone for quite a long time. It says long absence. And their consciousness never really became, when we say happy, having lost that association. It says their life was compared to inactivity, because the Vidura was a well-wisher of everyone. Of course, we know that Vidura is actually a manifestation of Yamaraj. He is actually a pure devotee of the Lord. Not only a pure devotee of the Lord, but he is actually a Mahajan, which means that he teaches the process of pure devotional service. Not only is he a pure devotee, but he is an acharya who knows the process and teaches the process also. So all of that together illustrates such a great, what a great personality he was. And at the same time, he was a family member, so there was family affection also there, along with the affection of him being a great personality. And so we can't imagine the joyfulness that really exploded when he came back to the palace. And he left under very unpleasant situations when he was criticized by Duryodhana. And then he just left the palace. He was also not really appreciated by some of the members of the family at the time. And then when he felt there was no longer any need to stay here, he went on pilgrimage. But now he's coming back. And what is he coming back for? Just for one reason. Not to associate with all of the family members again, but to give his dear brother, who he saw had a chance to become actually liberated from material life. Dhritarashtra was very materialistic. Very materialistic. Although he was very affectionate to the Pandavas when they were young and treated them just like their own children, later on, when there was some contention between his sons and the Pandavas, he practically tried to destroy the Pandavas. Not only did not side with them, but he actually actively worked in a way to comply with his sons to try to kill the Pandavas. And therefore, he had committed a great offense. And this will be brought out later in the same chapter. Because of his offense to the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra could not become a devotee of the Lord. And you'll see that Vidura, he came back to instruct his older brother. Says that Dhritarashtra was blind, but he was blind in two ways. Physically, he was unable to see, and also spiritually, he was completely blind. But Vidura wanted to do something. He always tried to help his older brother. And so he came back only for that reason. This has to be clarified. He came only for that reason. And as the chapter goes on, you'll see that when that reason was successful, Vidura also left along with Dhritarashtra and his good wife, Gandhari. You'll be hearing about Gandhari as these verses unfold. She is considered to be the most chaste lady in the history of chaste ladies in Vaishnava culture. That'll come up in the following verses, the glories of Gandhari. But here, the mood of separation is so joyful when the meeting comes that it's like everyone forgets all of the negativity that may have been there before, and everyone is just feeling the happiness of again meeting a loved one, or in this case, a great soul also. And the analogy is interesting. It's like consciousness. When we are sleeping, we're still alive, but we're unconscious, at least to the external world. So that means consciousness is more of a subdued level. It's still existing, but it's not very much perceived. That consciousness cannot perceive the external world, but it's still there. So in the same way, the residents of the palace, they were compared to like being in a sleep state. Their consciousness was so subdued that it was almost like having no consciousness. And Prabhupada has also made some interesting statements about people in the material world, that they appear to be alive, but they're not, because they have no real consciousness. Prabhupada, when he was in New York, he was walking with some of his devotees, followers at the time, and he was pointing to the people in general around him. He said, I'm just seeing just dead bodies flapping along. There's no life there. Because there's no Krishna consciousness, or even there's no pious life. People are just living a life covered by the lower modes of passion and ignorance, not able to understand the importance of human life. What to speak about doing good to others. There are people are so selfish sometimes that they only think about what they can gain in life and how they can live life in such a way as to take advantage of every situation for their own selfish interest. So that kind of consciousness is practically like another form of deadness. There's no real life there. So although a person may be alive by definition, they're actually not really functioning in the human consciousness. That's why Srila Prabhupada would also give the example of how people were living just like animals, and there's no difference between animal consciousness and human consciousness, because human consciousness has reverted back to animal consciousness. Simply people are interested in the bodily activities of life, and they center their whole life around that. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, in pointing this out, showing that people, although they are pure spiritual beings, they are more or less acting as animals. So this whole topic of consciousness is a very interesting topic, because consciousness actually is the symptom of the soul. The soul, when the soul is present, consciousness is present. When the soul is not there, just like in inanimate objects, such as furniture or, metal, things that are been formulated from the external environment into something else. Or just like you might take a branch of a tree and you cut it off from the tree and it lays in the ground. There's no consciousness in that branch. Although one time that branch did have some sensation being connected to the tree, who is a living entity, and because of that living entity's existence and the connection with all of the parts of the body of the tree also has consciousness, or to a certain degree, but covered. Once it's cut off from its source or consciousness itself, then it is just called jada. Jada means inert or dead. And so we see even that life itself, although it appears to be something living, people have become so engrossed in materialistic activities that they enjoy the so-called happiness they get from inanimate objects. I love my car. I love my computer. I love my new wardrobe. It's like they use this word love in a very loose way. And there's no consciousness there. It's just dead. In the real sense, although they're still living. But here, consciousness becomes stimulated to a large degree, or back to almost its normal consciousness, when one feels happiness upon meeting again a dear person in one's life. And that for a devotee, when devotees meet other devotees, they feel happy. And when they're in association with pure devotees, they feel very happy. And so the consciousness blossoms or blooms through the principle of happiness, because the essence of consciousness is joyfulness, as it's mentioned here. Okay, we can conclude here and open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Marshall, for such a nice class and really nice points about consciousness and body, how consciousness is so much related to the body's action. Thank you so much for addressing so many points. Would like to ask devotees, if you have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can take each other's association. Maharaj just shared how nicely when we see devotees, we get happy. So we can share our screens, our video, so we can see each other and be happy. So thank you, Maharaj, for bringing that point up. Because then it's all black screen. So sorry, Maharaj. So would like to ask devotees if you have any questions, any comments, any doubts that you have, please do raise your hand. Marge, okay, this kid is doing Aarti. Marge, I have a question, and you were mentioning, and I made a note of it. Consciousness and activity is so much related. How does that relate to attachment?
Attachment? Well, it depends on the object of attachment. If the attachment is for something material, then it's simply bodily consciousness. But if it's attachment for something spiritual, like becoming attached to a pure devotee, that's spiritual. But that attachment manifests itself according to the activity that will make that relationship develop. And therefore, when it comes to attachment to devotees, we are in the mood of serving devotees, in the mood of trying to please the devotees. Even if we associate with devotees, just general association, there is a type of attachment simply for that association. But on a material level, people do the same thing, but for bodily consciousness or for fulfilling their desires as in a material way. Attachment is good if it's directed towards something that will elevate our consciousness. And in this case, something, a pure devotee, or even devotees in general. As we used that one analogy, when Lord Chaitanya was speaking, Ramananda Roy said, the greatest unhappiness is separation from a devotee. So that means there's some attachment there. That unhappiness would not generate unless there was some attachment. But that attachment is good. You can't just be detached. You have to reattach yourself to those things that are of the nature of spirit. And detach yourself from those things that are of the nature of material. So that attachment is good. But attachment for something material just diverts our attention away towards things that cannot really bring any benefit. Therefore, if we have attachment to anything material, it should be something that we need in order to live in this world. And that kind of attachment is more or less utilizing things that we can use to live in this material world. But we also have to understand that attachment can also not be there, and at the same time we can go on in our material life. It doesn't matter. The material things can't give you any, they have some use. Just like you might be attached to the house you live in. So because you need a place to live, there's a type of attachment that's there. But then again, you could live in other places too. So the attachment to have a house is one thing, but attachment to a particular house is more of a material attachment. So there's degrees of attachment.
Thank you, Marge. That helps. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that point. Yes, Sridevi, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Thank you, Ansuya. Dear Guru Maharaj, you brought out beautifully the point that devotees are unhappy without devotees. Devotees feel great joy to meet other devotees, especially the pure devotees. So how much happiness we will feel when we finally see Krishna face to face. And even George Harrison says that if there's a God, I want to see him. In that introduction to Krishna book, he says that. But we hear so many times, don't try to see Krishna. Act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you. So I often wonder what exactly is the meaning of don't try to see Krishna when we are actually longing to go back home and see Krishna. Could you just clarify?
Yeah, act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you, and that's that's your desire to see Krishna. So if you want to see Krishna, you attract him in such a way that actually he'll appear to you. So that to want to see Krishna is not wrong, but how you do it is based on your devotional activity. Yes, I want to be with Krishna. I want to, my sweet Lord, I really want to see you. I really want to be with you, but it takes so long, my Lord. So that's good. That's nice. That's normal. And that's devotional. But then what are you going to do? You're going to demand Krishna to appear in front of you? You can't. All you can do is somehow or other attract Krishna by your devotional service. That's the way to see Krishna. And when that devotional service becomes perfect and pure, and then you'll see Krishna. But Krishna will want to appear to you.
Can't wait, Guru Maharaj, by your mercy.
That was a very nice question, Sri Devi. Just going to read a chat and then we'll go to Prekshit's question. There is a comment in the chat by Rishabhadas. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So zombies do exist in a spiritual level. Dead body that just move around with no benefit for a soul. Interesting realization regarding the branch being detached from the tree, as that branch start to rotten and pollute the surrounding area. The same way spirituality detached person from Krishna are just polluting the environment in one way or the other. Thank you for that. That was a powerful realization. Thank you for sharing that, Rishabhadas Prabhu. Yes, go ahead, Parikshit, with your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Maharaj, you said that Vidura returned to the palace expressly for his brother, Dhritarashtra, to save him, basically, because it was materialistic and he explained so nicely. So then that got me thinking, did Vidura return to the palace because he was, one way or the other, attached to his brother? Was there some attachment there? Because after all, there was a physical relationship between the two of them. They were from the same source. Or was it just a favor he was doing him, being Yamaraj that he is?
It appears that Vidura had some attachment to his brother, but he was attached in giving his brother what he needed. And what you'll read that in the chapter, I'll fast forward a little bit, that he preached to both Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari, mostly Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra actually became renounced. It really went right to his heart. He left the palace. Gandhari, being a chaste woman, went with her husband into the forest, and Vidura went with them. The three of them were together, all three of them. But then when Dhritarashtra ultimately burned himself in the fire of yoga, and Gandhari followed, and Vidura just simply left the scene feeling two things. He was feeling joyful that his brother had received liberation. He didn't receive bhakti, he got liberation. But he was also feeling sad, it says, from the departure of his brother. So there was some effect, there was some family affection there also.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that was brought out. And that's not contrary to a pure devotee's position as a pure devotee. Pure devotees have feelings too towards others.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very nice question, actually. That was definitely, at least for me. Thank you for asking that question. Sri Devi, you go next, and then I'll go to Namrata and Vrindavanath Prabhu.
I can wait, Anasuya, since I've already asked.
Oh, okay. I'll come to you at the third. So we'll go to Namrata next. Go ahead, Namrata.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance, Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, should I wait? Should I ask?
Continue.
Okay. So we saw that Vidura, he was even previously entirely when Dhritarashtra continuously made mistakes in taking decisions. Even then, he used to give correct advices, but Dhritarashtra could not follow at that time. But this is the particular moment when Dhritarashtra caught up. So, what factor are there which made him reciprocate to the particular advice at that time?
I missed a few words. I don't know. Somehow.
Maharaj, if I can sum up what she's saying. What she's saying is initially when and correct me if I'm wrong, Namrata, is when he was in the palace, Vidur tried to, get Dhritarashtra to get his, to get his mind together and, and surrender to the Lord. He did not. It was after Vidur came back that he was able to get to his brother. But what is the factor the second time around that Vidur could get to his brother that he could not initially? Is that what you're asking, Namrata?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dhritarashtra had lost everything. He lost all of his sons. Before he was supporting his sons against the Pandavas. But now he had lived, and then, Vidura really, he told him straight, you're looking like a dog. Eating the remnants of Bhima who you tried to kill. You're shameless. And he said the words were sharp and straight. He didn't mince any words. And so I think everything that needed to be said was not said before because the situation wasn't like that. The situation was different before. Dhritarashtra was supported by his sons and he was supporting his sons. And all of that was taken away, and now he was just living like as Vidura says, like a dog in the house of your enemy. The persons you tried to kill, now you're living off them. You're shameless. And so he wouldn't, the situation was completely different. Before he would try to enlighten Dhritarashtra by saying, you shouldn't be so, you shouldn't treat the Pandavas the way you're treating them. But he couldn't hear that. He was favoring his sons, and his son, especially Duryodhana and Dushashana, both of them were envious and greedy. They didn't have any good, they were only selfish, that's all. Duryodhana was so selfish that when he was asked by Krishna wanted to settle the situation without a war. And he asked Duryodhana, he said, these are Kshatriyas. They have to rule. They cannot become Brahmanas. They cannot become Vaishyas. They have to have their Kshatriyas, so they have to rule. So just give them 5 villages to rule. You can have the whole kingdom. The Pandavas would not even dispute that. But Duryodhana was so greedy that he said, I will not give even enough land that you can put a head of a pin on. Not even that. And so when that was stated, there was no other thing, but there's no other choice but to engage in the battle. Everything was averted. I mean, Krishna tried to avert the war. The Pandavas didn't even want the war either, but they had to have some place to rule. They're Kshatriyas, and they were being not only pushed out, they tried to kill them. Poison cake to Bhima, sent them all in the house of lac. It was Vidura who saved them from burning to death in that house of lac. Dhritarashtra knew about that. He knew the Pandavas were going to be burnt in that house, but Vidura saved them and warned them in time where they dug a tunnel underneath the house and got out in time. And they were sent to the forest. There were so many Pandavas who were simply abused. But they remained faithful to Krishna. And they didn't try to fight back either. So the situation was much different than it was now. Now all of that was gone, and Dhritarashtra was just like a household dog. That's all. He couldn't speak like that before. Dhritarashtra wouldn't hear anything. It's just like, you know, when sometimes when your plans in life are being fulfilled, and then someone's trying to tell you, actually, you know, you're going in the wrong direction. You can't hear. But then your plans just fall apart and everything goes wrong. Then you're ready for advice. Yeah?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I was exactly thinking the same thing. It happens in the life that, you know, you continuously, you repeatedly get hammered by, you know, you repeatedly get kicked, but you don't realize. You repeatedly get kicked, you don't realize. But there's one point when everything just, you know, comes like a flashback, and that is the changing point of your life. So yeah, I definitely could, you know, track that. So thank you, Maharaj, for explaining this. Just one clarification, Maharaj. You said Dhritarashtra, he couldn't get bhakti. So does that mean that he got the Sayujya Mukti?
It just mentions he got liberation. He couldn't get bhakti because he offended the Pandavas. That's brought out. Vidura couldn't teach him the process of pure devotional service. He could only move him towards liberation. That's all. So he performed the yoga process, and by the fire of the power of his yoga, he was able to burn up his own body by the fire within the body. That will be brought out later in the chapter. It's, and Prabhupada writes in the purport, offense at the lotus feet of the devotees is greater, a greater offense than offense at the lotus feet of the Lord. So he offended the Pandavas, and therefore he wasn't qualified for devotional service.
Thank you. Please continue.
That was a really powerful statement, Maharaj, but that you just said, and I can see as soon as you made that statement, we're all writing the notes down, right, Sri Devi? Offenses to the devotees greater than offenses to the Lord. It's like we've heard it, we know it, but we just need to be reminded again, knocking on our heads. It was powerful, Maharaj. Thank you so much for repeating that point. Amazing. Thank you for this very nice question, Namrata. Very, very nice. Vrindavanath Prabhu, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, my question is, it might be looking a bit odd, but it's going on in my mind from some time. See, when we discuss about Mahatma Vidur and see his pastimes where he was Yamraj and he was cursed by Manduka Muni, And when we hear about Manduka Muni pastimes, that he was given punishment by magistrate to be pierced with a lens until death. And that happened when he asked from Yamraj why I am being given this punishment. And he was told that in his childish, like in his child age, he made a mistake where he pierced a ant with a straw. And for that, he has to go through this punishment. And this actually like is going on in this year when I started some gardening, little gardening in my home. Because in gardening, when we do, we need to use pesticides to safeguard plants, to kill some insects or ants. And this is a kind of a dilemma in my mind, whether growing vegetables or plants or flowers is good thing, or like killing this is like I'm creating more my karma for next birth or something. So what to choose and what not to. Sorry, Guru Maharaj, this is a bit practical question, but
If you are engaging in doing that work in a material way, then you would get a reaction for that. But if you're doing it as a devotional activity, then you're not on the material platform anymore. You're acting in devotional service. Prabhupada said that, yeah. That, you're painting a wall and somehow you paint over a bug. But if you're painting that wall for Krishna, then there's no reaction for that. Of course, we devotees very much are conscious not to kill even any living entities, even in any activity performed. But if it happens inadvertently, just like Prabhupada said, you're walking along the street and you're stepping on ants. But if you're going to the temple or you're going to the Harinam, then there's no reaction for that. But if you're going for your material duties, then you'll get some reaction for that. So devotional service is so powerful that it frees one from inadvertently committing offenses to living entities that are done, that are unavoidable due to the activity of devotional service. But if you're doing it, if the materialistic person is doing it for their own, yeah, they'll get a reaction from it because they're under the influence of the material energy.
thank you, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, I'm primarily using this for growing flowers, which are being offered to deities every day. And
Try
that's
to
why
do everything in the most humane way to avoid causing any discomfort, any living entities. It can only do that up to a point. That's why the statement Jiva Jiva Sajivano. That's there. One living entity automatically is food for other living entities. The Jains, they wear masks because they feel that, they breathe, they're killing bacteria, and therefore that they're also living entities. So they want to wear the masks. But Prabhupada says, this is really not our understanding. Our understanding is that if you live for devotional activity, then inadvertently, if you do kill someone, some living entity, some microbes or some insects or something, you don't get a reaction for that. But try to minimize causing discomfort to any living entity simply by being conscious of that in the activities you perform.
thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. It's really, really helpful.
I know you must be at peace right now, Prabhu, just hearing this answer.
Yes, Mataji, I was really in like big dilemma that growing flowers for the deities, it's a good thing. But I think Guru Maharaj point is also very valid point that need to try to minimize like discomfort for these living entities. So
Yeah, as much as you can do it.
Thank you, Marge. Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice question. Sridevi, you can go back to your question, Prabhu.
Thank you. Guru Maharaj, this point about Sayuja Bhakti that Namrata raised, we know that the impersonalists, they end up in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. And as Krishna says, my devotees come back to me. Where do those who are meditating on the Paramatma feature of the Lord, the mystic yogis, what is their destination?
Why do you ask that question?
Because I was trying to explain in one class about the destination, and because I have not read this, I couldn't answer properly. I know that devotees of the Lord go back to the Lord, the impersonalists get merged into the Brahma Jyoti, but where do the mystic yogis, what is their destination? I didn't know.
They go to the higher planets. There's a whole planet called Siddhaloka, where everyone on that planet has mystic power. That's in the heavenly realms. So they go to one of the higher planets in the heavenly realms, Siddhaloka, Charnaloka.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Siddhaloka means, Siddha means power. So these people on Siddhaloka, they have full mystic powers. They can fly through the air. They know the mystic powers. And if you read the 11th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 2 chapters on mystic powers. And the purports, you can also get the information about that. But generally, they go to one of the higher planets. They don't reach the spiritual world.
So in the case of Dhritarashtra, he attained liberation. He didn't get bhakti, which means that he had to again take birth.
Yeah. Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, he'll have to go through many births until he can actually qualify again for devotional service. I'll read you if you want, I can read you the exact station. Give me a second. Yeah. It says here, Dhritarashtra being inimical to the Pandavas who were all devotees, an offense at the feet of the Vaishnava is more dangerous. The offense of the lotus feet of the Lord was, Vidura was certainly liberal to bestow mercy upon his brother Dhritarashtra, whose past life was very materialistic. But ultimately, the result of such mercy certainly depended on the will of the Supreme Lord in the present life. Therefore, Dhritarashtra attained liberation only, and after many such liberated states of life, one can attain to the stage of devotional service. But only after many such states of liberated life can one attain to the stage of devotional service. So if he's fortunate, he can maybe come to devotional service in his next life. His liberation is temporary. After the credits that you gain from liberation are exhausted, then you go back and perform activities again in the material realm. And if he's fortunate, he may also meet a pure devotee of the Lord and take up pure devotional service. Otherwise, Prabhupada said, then you might become liberated, and in another life you perform activities again, and you may achieve again liberation. So we don't really know, but Prabhupada doesn't really say that he got pure devotion and service after the next one. First, he may have, because it's impossible for anyone to get pure devotion and service if they come in contact with a pure devotee and they follow the process.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So devotional service is such a rare gift and something that we need to completely absorb ourselves in order to achieve the goal of the human life. Otherwise, we could lose the chance if we don't do it right.
And the very first chapter of the Nectar Devotion gives us 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, and one of them is rarity. As a preacher, you should know that, those 6 characteristics. One is that devotional service is very rare. That's important if you're preaching. That's the quality. I think you have to let people know that this is not something that's easily attainable. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very merciful. He's made it available to anyone. But how many will actually take it? That's generally, people don't want it. They still want to enjoy material life and at the same time practice some kind of devotion to God. That's the standard mentality of most persons. But if we chant holy names and associate with the pure devotees of the Lord, engage in devotional service, we can get that higher taste. We need that higher taste. Not just a better taste, a higher taste. Gotta go for it.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, by your mercy, by your mercy.
Go for that higher taste. It's out there.
Marge, there's a question here in the chat from Bhakta Bread. Hare Krishna, my Krishna, my humble obeisances, all good Shri Prabhupada. Sorry for not being able to speak or put on my video. I'm at work as usual. Marge, thank you for touching on the point of attachment. It's something I'm currently struggling with. Material work life is pulling me towards the opportunity to relocate within minutes of a new temple that will allow me to be able to serve the devotees and the Lord more and more as I've so desired, while simultaneously this opportunity will be stripping me more physically from my current temple, that I have already felt feelings of longing for association, a temple where I've built physical association. Is this feeling of attachment, okay, trying to go down here. Is this feeling of attachment wrong, Maharaj? I love my current temple and I love those devotees will always be there. But at the same time, at this new temple, I do have few connections. I'm wondering what is right for an aspiring person.
Yeah, you can visit, you can take part in both temples. Nothing wrong in that. You don't have to say, well, I have to have only one temple. Not like that. And then you can do service in both temples. You may be inclined to one temple more than the other. So keep going in both temples. And then if you find that at one point you're more inclined to one of the temples, then you can focus more on that. That's nice. Not a problem at all.
I hope that helped, Bhakta Bread. That is straight up answer.
Just like devotees, they have their favorite deities, but sometimes they have many favorite deities. They like Kishore Kishori, they like Radha Shyam Sundar, they like Radha Madhava. They can't figure out which one they like the best. At one time, they're experiencing the happiness in this one deity, and then then it goes and they have the same experience with another deity. This is not a problem.
Thank you, Marge. Brett, I think you got your answer, so I hope that helped. I know you're at work and you can't speak, so hopefully that helped your question. Any other questions from devotees? Any clarification that we need, whether it's from this class or previous classes or anything, please do raise your hand and we can, Marge will be happy to answer it. Going down the list so I don't miss anybody. Yes, Namrata, go ahead.
Sorry, Mara, just a quick question from what you said last, that devotees do have favorite deities. So is that having a favorite deity, connecting with a particular deity, is that okay, or is it just illusion of the mind?
Well, many of the great souls, they have their favorite deities. Sanatana Goswami was Madana Mohan. Rupa Goswami was Govindaji. Sometimes people try to understand what was Prabhupada's favorite deity. He's indicated sometimes. Radha Lananishwara, one time he mentioned. And then another time it was not. What was it? Yeah. There's sometimes, yeah, devotees have their favorite deities, yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's natural. If you don't have a favorite deity, then get one.
I do have, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes, Sulkesh Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept humble obeisances for Guru Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, I understand you have a deity of Haridas Thakur, and I was just curious how that came about because I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, he's here. You want to see him?
Please.
Okay. Let me see. I can't move him because he's really situated, but I'll move the computer. Let me know if you can pick up on it. Can you see him?
Yes, Maharaj.
Is it centered nicely or do I have to move anyway?
Slightly to the left.
This way?
Oh, wait, the other way, the other way. Perfect.
There he is. He's chanting Hare Krishna.
It's one of a kind. Beautiful.
I'm sure you know some kind of service for her.
Beautiful. Sulkesh Prabhu got his wish fulfilled.
Thank you for the darshan, Maharaj.
Yes, Sri Devi, please.
Guru Maharaj, please may I know where one can have the good fortune to obtain such a beautiful deity of Haridas Thakur? I would like to have one in my altar.
Well, the person who I get the deities from, she is in Hungary, and she right now she's busy doing other services, and she has no time because there's two people that are already waiting for deity. On my last trip to America, I got requests from Prem Kishori. She got one deity from me. Braja Bhakti from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. She got a deity from me. Now two other people want deities. You can just put your name in and I'll ask her to make you him for you. It may take a while, she said, because of her work now, doing her spiritual master's books. She's an artist also. She can't get it and do it until maybe October. But if you want to find another form of Haridas that's a little different than what I have or what she makes, which are all the same forms generally, then you may also look around. Being in Mayapur, you have an advantage. You may be able to find something in Mayapur.
Yes, very much. Thank you so much for your kind offer.
Thank you, Sri Devi. Any other questions, devotees? Anything that's coming to your mind? Anything that you would like? I'm sorry, Maharaj.
3 days. If you want one from me, the source I get it, then let me know for sure, and then I'll ask her to make one for you also. It'll take a few months. It won't come until probably January.
Yes, please, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, I had to wait 1 year from the day I asked for my deity.
That's all right. I don't mind waiting.
Beautiful. Thank you. The offer is up. If anyone would like, please reach out to Maharaj. It's even more potent getting it from the spiritual master to give a deity to us. So please, if anyone would like it, please do contact Maharaj, and I'm sure he will contact the devotee in Hungary to get it made for you. So thank you so much, Maharaj. If there are, going down the list so that I don't miss anybody here, if there are no questions, Maharaj, would you like to end with a round of chanting?
I have to find out if something's going on around me.
No problem, Maharaj.
Give me 1 minute and then
No problem, Maharaj.
I'll let you know for sure.
Sure, Maharaj. No problem.
There we go. Here she comes.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Till Maharaj is coming, I would like to share a small funny incident.
Please.
So we were in retreat last November at GV, and it happened that Guru Maharaj invited us for the class, and we were at his place where he was staying in the room, and we had the class, we had conversation, and then I forgot to take darshan of Haridas Thakur, Guru Maharaj's deity, and it was completely out of my mind. It just went out of my mind, and in the middle of the night, it came in my dream. I could recall I forgot to take darshan, and I woke up that very night, and I was like feeling so guilty that I went there. I didn't take darshan of Haridas Thakur, so it was strange. I could recall in the dream. So
You got some special mercy.
so I just offered apologies to her, to your deities, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, he's quite popular.
He is very much loved in Harrisburg. Whenever Haridas Thakur comes, our devotees just, gaze and just stare and just look, and they just get really, really into Haridas Thakur whenever he comes to our temple in Harrisburg with Maharaj. So beautiful. So beautiful.
I just see an old friend who appeared on the scene from London. Steve, you there?
Oh my God, Shiv.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Hari Hari. I don't mean to hijack the call. I just wanted to see your face, Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. I'm in London.
Yes, Maharaj. I'm stuck in the deserts of Dubai.
Oh, you're in Dubai.
Yes, Maharaj. But I mean, Nitai. You remember Nitai Priya from Mayapur?
Yeah, the Kirtanier.
Yes, he's in London, Maharaj, and he was expressing to me. He also lives here. He was expressing to me that he would like to see you at some point. So maybe, how long are you in London for?
Up until the 4th, and then we go to Berlin for Rath Yatra for 2 days.
Okay.
Then we come back on the 7th for 2 more days, and then off to Europe.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to hijack the call, but Marge, it's wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
I'm not hijacking any call, Shiv. I was just thinking that last time I saw you was with Maharaj and Janaki Nath in my house many years ago in Gitanagari. It's been
Yes.
ages.
Yeah, he's in the desert now.
Yes.
I hope there's some water in the desert.
Well, if you come, there'll be enough water for many, many years. So please come.
Yeah, it's one of the places that's on the list.
Yeah, Marge, I know there are many devotees here who would love to see you. We have a beautiful Kirtan festival in December, on the first few days of December. So I'm sure you've received invites for that. But if you need, I can bring you here. No problem. If you can free up those days.
Oh, good. Yeah, I get invitations from what's her name? Chandrika.
Oh yeah, she's also here, Marge.
Yeah, she's invited me so many times.
Yes.
Send me the dates, and then I'll try to make it.
Yes, Marge. We have Sachinanda Maharaj coming and Govinda Swami coming this year, and yeah, it's such a wonderful festival.
Good. Yeah. It's a place that I've been invited to for the last 3 years and haven't got yet.
Well, maybe this is the year, Marge.
Okay. I'll be in India time. How far is it from India to Dubai?
Not far, Marge. 3-hour flight. When will you be there for?
I'll be in India during December for sure. Yeah.
So I'm going to be in Vrindavan for the last week of Kartik, then come back to Dubai, and then I'll be going for Burjan Prabhu's retreat in Govardhan. So maybe we can connect at some point.
Just send me the dates, and then I'll try to work something out.
Okay. Thank you, Marge. Hare Krishna.
See, you're not at all hijacking. Perfect timing, Shiv.
Yeah, I do have some time, and we can do a round of japa.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, Jai Sri Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hari Bol, Hari Krishna, Hari Krishna. Krishna, 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 Hari Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Jai Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Mike, for such a wonderful class. And thank you to all the devotees for joining us. Vanchakramatavyasya, Kripasindhaveva, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Holiness Candramauli Swami Ki Jai.
Hi.
And have a
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
For the to purify, that's it, right? Not that
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
by somebody else and get that cycle of the pollution.
Thank you, Hari Hari Bol. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Vinasya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
For the
Jai
benefit
Shri
of
Prabhupada.